All right, looks like we're live. Welcome to Dive into World Building. And today we're talking about posture, which was a really cool suggestion that someone gave me last week. And I can't remember who it was. That's okay. You guys are all awesome. Anyway, so posture, we're really talking about body positioning, but that's also a cultural topic. Because, yeah, there are all kinds of things we learned about how to hold our bodies that are cultural, and we don't really realize it at the time. That's why you get all these weird articles like, did you know that the people of such and such a place in such and such a country actually stand like this, and none of them have back pain? It's like,
yeah,
I'm skeptical. What intrigue? So, I mean, we learn these sort of body habits, right? And some of them are just the way we stand, right, or the way we sit, or some of them have to do with the way that our furniture is designed, right?
And
Looking at IKEA.
Furniture design is cultural.
Sorry?
Furniture design is cultural. Heights of chairs and things like that is based entirely on how, people have sat before, and then they design things that match, stuff that went on historically, and it varies a lot from one culture to another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes people don't really deeply think about how they design their couches. And so they'll do it where they'll design it where the place you sit is way too wide, and so if you want to sit on it, you kind of have to lie down halfway, and hit the backrest and stuff. So
that is me on 90% of the furniture.
Oh dear.
The angles of the backs, the height of the arms,
the thighs are too long.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does assume, and then this is a kind of we have to touch on this. It does assume a certain body size, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And a certain kind of body proportion as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in airplane seats, it indicates a certain lack of body size as well.
Yeah. Well, there used to be though that, and on airplanes, the more you paid, the more space you could get. There was, I think, a bigger difference between luggage class and first class.
Well, there still is that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm not sure that even the big people who are presumed to be well off and able to pay for the space can actually still fit in first class seats.
But I don't know, because they have like first class, they have things that are like couches and you can like lie down on them fully, and stuff that folds out into beds, and
oh god,
it's like
okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's like bananas, like what you can actually like get if you can afford it.
Wow.
Well, and then there's also the fact that you can't stand up in your seat and all that kind of stuff, and people resent you if you're standing up and moving through the aisle. And so, but we're not on airplanes today. Let's get back to body posture. I'm thinking about, what is it that we do? So things like not locking your knees. I learned that when I went into band, because you would be marching in the band, and then you have to stop for parade review. And if you locked your knees during parade review, you would pass out before they finished judging you.
Yeah.
And this would be bad. So we were all told, but no uncertain terms, do not lock your knees. Yeah, because part of parade review is just standing really still.
Wow.
But there's also things like holding your back straight, and what that means, because backs are kind of not straight, but we call it holding your back straight.
I was thinking about that posture thing, that the bending over table bend thing that's been going around.
Tell me
And
about that.
And I read about why it's supposed to be better for your back, and it made sense. And it sort of goes along with the you can lift with your knees and not with your back. But that's also depending on which joints are more broken in your body. It makes it's a personal thing. But if you think about, if you look at a person who's bending over with their knees bent and back straight and level, like a table, and you put that body position into a Western, highly sexualized culture, it's going to be seen as an invitation rather than a practical, this is how I'm doing this because my body prefers this position and I'm in less pain, and not I'm sticking my butt out so you can put your hands or whatever all over it. Because that's what we do in this society is we put our, well, not we, certain elements in this society decide that certain other elements are theirs for the grabbing, and a lot of the things, keep your knees together, don't spread your knees apart.
Yep.
A lot of the positions that women are told to take involve trying to make it clear to men that they should just keep their body parts to themselves. We are not inviting you in. Of course, right.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all built on the assumption that inviting is all that we're good for.
Yeah, 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 it's highly sexualized, and when you take a practical position like that and turn it into something that only focus on the sexual aspect of it, you're making it difficult for people to just do things that are easier on their bodies.
So there's ergonomics for sure.
Well, there's also sort of the illusion of posture, right? I mean, clothing that is built to either cause you to stand in a certain position or cause you to move in a certain way, or to make up for a lack of posture, right? You have things with boning in them, and you have shoulder pads, and you have all sorts of elements that are there to make you look a certain way if you don't fit a specific posture type.
Yeah, military uniforms have done this in the past.
They still do.
Yes. The collars, it was in the Napoleonic era, the stocks were the very high collars that forced you to stand there with your head up on parade so you looked smart. And almost the first thing that every soldier would do as soon as they were off parade was rip the stock off because it was so uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yeah.
But like men's suits, right? If you go in to get a man's suit tailored, they will accommodate you so that you look a certain way. So there's shoulder pads.
Yeah.
They style the jacket or design the jacket around your,
does dress to the left or to the right?
Exactly.
But the shoulder
Standardize your
pads,
appearance, basically.
yeah, but the shoulder pads make up for posture or for body shape?
It's a mix.
Yeah, I'd say it's both.
As somebody who has very round shoulders and bad posture, it's both.
Oh God, I have terrible posture. Like seriously, bad.
Well, so
Mine got better from doing Zumba and other dancing kind of things. That actually improved my posture significantly.
yeah, well, I got better from yoga.
Yeah, that I can believe. And Pilates and stuff like that.
I actually got taller from yoga.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like at the age of what, 45?
I was gonna say you may be overdoing it.
No, but seriously, like literally, I started going into yoga, and then sometime later, we were doing that whole let's measure everybody, and I was half an inch taller than I was supposed to be.
Interesting.
Which was very surprising. I was like, wait a minute, that's not supposed to be, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I would say you were like standing up straight for the first time in your life, probably, maybe.
Possibly, yeah. But I mean, I think it also has to do with, you know, all that sort of, and lengthen.
Yeah.
But it also, if there's less compression in your spine.
Yeah.
Just because you're more relaxed and you're moving better.
Yes, spine compression is a significant factor. It's a lot of people get a little bit shorter as they get older, and each disc doesn't have to compress very much. But you've got 25 or whatever of them, adding together, and yeah. And then yes, if you add a stoop as well, people end up looking an awful lot smaller and shorter than they used to.
Well, so you know what's interesting? I was talking to my kids about this the other day. That I don't know if you recall, there's this game that I used to play as a kid, and it's kind of just like, ooh, check this out kind of thing, where you hold somebody's arms down and then they try really hard to raise them, right? And you count to 30, and then you ask them to relax their arms, and their arms will go up.
Yep.
Okay? So this was a game that we used to do all the time because we thought it was kind of cool. But it hints at the question of muscle tone and how you create body habits in terms of posture and stuff, so that people who slouch a lot will tend to have their muscles accommodate, and then they will have a harder time not slouching.
Oh, tell me about it.
I think there's also an aspect of how your environment shapes and is shaped by not only how you inhabit it, but how other people assume you inhabit it. I got no-line bifocals 5 or 6 months ago, and I realized that one of the things I absolutely hate about them is that because I'm short, I stand very tall. I stand very straight. My head is up. And they manufactured my glasses such that if I am standing straight up and looking forward, I'm looking through one of the reading areas.
Eesh.
And so I have to bend my head down in order to be looking through the proper part of the lens. And so I'm going to go have them redone.
Hadn't considered that was the problem when I was trying to use progressives. I just, interesting.
That's interesting. There's another thing that is all about how you inhabit your space. This is a story from quite a number of years ago when I was in my PhD program. I went with a group of people from my university to do a conference, which was in Salt Lake City. And so, we'd been doing conference things all day. I'm used to saying conventions these days because these days I go to conventions. but then we went out to dinner. And so we found ourselves walking through the streets of Salt Lake City in the evening. There were not a lot of people around. It wasn't very cold and it wasn't very hot, and it was just a beautiful night. And I remember just sort of striding across the street, going, wow, this is such a great night, right? And my advisor's response was, "You're such an American." And I think it was the posture, just the idea that I could feel comfortable walking across the street at night with my head kind of thrown back and my shoulders kind of thrown back, and just kind of, I don't know what it was, but it was something about the way I was moving that she's just sort of identified as very American.
I've had a corollary experience. I was wearing a salwar kameez, and I was with a colleague who was also Indian. And the waiter asked us, are you, mother and daughter? And I look at her and I'm just like, wow, not even the same countries, guys. But she said, you really could pass for an Indian as long as you don't move or speak.
Okay, then.
because I don't have the looking down, and I don't roll my shoulders down, and I don't do all of the sort of submissive things that women do in other cultures. And so I'm really obviously an American wherever I go.
Unless it's just, still pictures of you, in which case you're fine.
Yeah, no, good. Well, but posture still will give me away a little bit there.
She said don't move, but yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's something too about, I think that women have to be more conscious of their position and framing than men do, because I'm not sure why, but because we do.
I think, again, it is because of the risks that entail getting it wrong for women far outweigh those of getting it wrong for men in most circumstances. There are probably a few cases where, body language is kind of important for guys, but I certainly haven't come across many, whereas I am sure that for many, many, many women, it's really important to understand what body language you're conveying, and posture is a significant part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually just swatted a friend of mine on Facebook because they, we were having a conversation where, it was a couple lines each of 4 people. And then this person comes in with like 9 paragraphs of stuff. And I said, women are aware of the space they take up in the world. And they will match sort of what they see to what they're going to do. So you may want to be a little bit more aware of that than you seem to be right now.
It's something I try and be conscious of, because quite often on these, when I'm on the dive into world buildings, I'm like, I may well be the only guy in the group, and I'm like, I really don't want to take up more than my share of the conversation. And unfortunately, I'm very talkative, so sometimes.
Unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, we all enjoy having you here, and we love what you have to say. So, I mean, there's a balance, right? It's all about the balance.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think, well, when I think of men posturing, I think of men posturing. I think of the things that men do to try to make themselves look bigger or taller or buffer or any of those things.
I'm tempted to get up and demonstrate, but I'm really not going to do that right now. But yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
No.
There's an interspecies posture issue when you said talking about things you do to make yourself look bigger. Things you do to make yourself look bigger to a horse.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
For example.
Or look bigger to a bear.
Yeah. Or mountain lion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throwing a hat at it is good, apparently. Throw a hat at a bear confuses it.
That's my head coming off at you.
But there's also within other species, if you look at dogs, there are dogs who find an erect tail to be a sign of aggression, which can cause problems if you're a beagle and your tail is
stuck.
Stuck, especially if you're a happy beagle and your tail is just sort of, your tail and your personality are sort of stuck in happy mode. And I know a dog who has been attacked on several occasions by other dogs because he just carries himself like a happy dog. And his owner has discovered on more than one occasion that she's capable of scooping up a full-grown beagle and body blocking an attacking. Oh, well, let's see. What was one of them was I'm blanking on the name, a mastiff. But that's all within a species.
Yeah.
And so it's not just humans that have these
well, there's also
communications issues.
There's also bowing. Bowing happens in different styles and postures.
Submissive postures. I was going to say that next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and part of bowing is making yourself smaller than the person you're bowing to. So to indicate that you are of a lesser status or importance.
Well, and if you get into cultural versions of bowing, how far you bow makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
The angle at which you stop can be critically important.
Yes.
I had a friend who was a diplomat in training, and there's a whole long list of things that, you know, depending on who you were meeting with, because he was a low-level new guy to this, they made him review all this material before he would meet with people from different nations because of the differences, the posture differences and the body language differences.
Good.
Yeah, I had to school
someone to that stuff.
I had to school someone today because we had a gentleman who had to come back for something, and he is from Africa. And when he shook her hand, he took his opposite hand and cupped to the elbow of his shaking arm.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Do you know what that means?" And she's like, "No." And I said, "That is a gesture of extreme respect. So when people do that to you, you know, make sure that you make eye contact and be respectful back."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was another similar thing there. I had to go get a suit from the dry cleaners, and the young lady who runs the dry cleaner is, I believe, from South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she hands the credit card back to you, she holds it in both hands and presents it, rather than, you know, like at the supermarket, if they hand it back to you, they just, you know, do the one hand thing. But it's very clearly a conscious gesture on her part that. When I first started going there, she was very careful about it and did it very cleanly every time. And now that she's been running the place for 2 or 3 years, she's gotten much more casual. She's sort of started to adopt sort of the Americanism of just like, you know, here, take the card.
Throwing it at, it's over here, go fetch.
Yeah, exactly. Gambit style, right? But so it's just been interesting to watch that progression too, how you adopt the body language of what you're immersed in over time.
This actually reminds me about throwing down gauntlets.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
All of those things, like when you drop something on the floor intentionally to make somebody else bow down before you. Man, oh man.
I don't do that very often, but yeah,
It's not a thing that people do a lot because it's really rude.
I mostly do it to cats. It's like, you know.
And so how is a refusal, and this, I don't know if it's a digression or not, how is a refusal to engage, a refusal to bend down and pick it up? How is that?
That's a challenge. That's a challenge to your authority.
Yeah.
Right. The person who doesn't pick it up is a coward, basically.
Yeah. There's a lot of enforcement there.
But if they...
So, yeah. But there's also that, like, dogs do the bowing thing when they're playing.
Yeah.
That's how you know they're playing.
Yeah, I have a play bow in one of my stories. It's kind of frightening, actually, but...
But it fits. Also, like when you're doing martial arts, it's the same thing. There's a particular motion you make to indicate that, no, I'm not actually going to try and kick your ass in this bout. This is a practice bout.
Yeah.
But there's an assumption, though, I think, that there is no difference in context, or there can be in context or culture that I'm thinking of postures that are sometimes interpreted as submissive and sometimes interpreted as an invitation to play. Cats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kate knows.
Yes, you know, I would like you to stroke my belly, and now I'm going to rip your forearm off. Yes.
Yes. But, you know, and if you don't have cats, you might say, okay, well, it's always this thing or it's always this other thing. But if you do have cats, you know that it could be an invitation to play. It could be, I'm just feeling lazy and I'm going to lie here on my back. If you come near me, just don't. So I don't know what that expresses. You know, some kind of level of trust that they can lie there exposed in your presence and be able to flip over.
Yeah.
Or that they just know they can destroy you if you try.
Yeah, that was true.
Well, honestly, my cat is extremely docile, and she will basically walk into my path and flip on her back. And it's an invitation because she knows that I will come down and just basically give her a full body massage, and she loves it.
Yeah, see, you say it's an invitation. To her, it's a command.
That's right, man.
Human, do this now.
Human, you know you want to pet me.
And they do. They will take the power from you. I have my cats are trained to stand up and beg for treats, like canned food.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they do now is whenever they have decided that they need to give me the command food, they will walk over and stand up on their hind legs and beg.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're really, really insistent about it, they will continue standing up and then rub their head against my leg. And I was like, I didn't think that we were going to get this far, but okay.
Well, okay, so here's another animal body posture thing. My boy cat, his favorite type of hug is when you pick him up and you have your hand underneath his armpits, basically on the tummy side, and you have your other hand underneath his bottom and you kind of underneath his feet, and then you just kind of hug him like this, okay? But you can only do it at the right time, okay? And and so you can try it anytime, but the only way that you will know if it is the right time is his body posture, because if you pick him up like that and he's looking at you, it is not the right time. If it is the right time, he lays his head on my shoulder and puts his little hand on my arm, and then we hug for a while. But it's all about the body posture. My other cat, if you pick her up at all, it is only because you are a conveyance of a temporary nature. And her posture, when you pick her up, is like, I'm ready to spring whenever I see a dismount spot. Right?
Yeah.
The minute she's within range, she's off.
Yeah, we've got one cat like that. She's always, as soon as I pick her up, she likes being cuddled and she purrs, but she's always looking for the next exit route. And if I'm close enough to a table or a chair or the bed or anything, it'll be like, shh-ba-ding.
Yeah.
So I had this this great manager once, and I was working for it was a programming team, a bunch of software engineers and me doing tech stuff and phone messages, and I dressed the way all the engineers did. We all dressed in jeans and whatever, because there was no outside face-to-face contact. And Peggy said to me once that when she would call in from outside and she would hear my voice, and she would, from the way I was speaking, she would picture my posture, and that I would be dressed like a person who had to have face contact with the world, and my hair up and sitting up properly, and in that the way that the high level receptionists and admin assistants are expected to look. And it was always a little startling to her when she remembered that, no, I was there in my jeans and my t-shirt just like the rest of the engineers. So what is it that makes that position of sitting up straight and having your hair done in a certain way go with that that kind of job, that kind of presentation? I'm wondering. But you could also tell me that I'm just completely disconnected from
No, this is a well-known socialization tactic. I learned it at Disney when we had, we're wearing full faces, like character masks, and so you can't see what actual expression I have. And when we were taking photos with people, they would say, you need to smile inside the head. And we're like, why? And they're like, because when you smile genuinely, your shoulders tense, your body changes. And I'm like, how about I just tense all that stuff and not smile? This is what I do.
It's not the same.
It's not. But it's like, if you think about it, if you listen, you can tell if the person on the other end of the line is smiling.
Yeah.
by the way their words are formed.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the psychosomatic parts of it are definitely a thing, which is why, standing at attention looks the way it does.
Well, and there's that other thing where, if your hairdresser is trying to do something rather finicky and tricky, they really don't want you talking.
Yeah.
Because talking moves your whole body. And if they're trying to do something a little delicate, they're like, if you do that, can you hold off the talking there for a minute so don't cut your ear, or whatever it happens to be.
Well, how many people turn the radio down when you're driving someplace really scary to drive?
Yeah, because you don't want to be, you want to use everything to tell where you are and what's coming at you. Right?
Yep, especially when it's your children's music.
City.
But the whole talking and how by moving your whole body, that's also very cultural.
Yep.
Some people are perfectly capable of talking without using their hands. I don't know any of them. But you tilt your head, or you move your hands, or if you're standing, you'll move your body. If you're sitting, you might move, your shoulders, or parts of your body that you might think have nothing to do with speech, but actually do.
There's a ton of secondary in animation. We run into this a lot. People who think that when a character is talking, only their lips have to move. My favorite example of this is the Final Fantasy movie, where any long shot where the characters are talking, all they do is move their lips. Anything where the camera's far away, but you can tell that that's all that is being done, and it makes it's one of the uncanny valley things that we work with. Because everything has to move. If you have a character talking to the camera, if you have a full body rig on a character, you put animation in the knees, you put it in the elbows, you put it in the shoulders. The whole thing's got to animate all the way down. Yeah. Otherwise, it looks stiff and robotic. And it's they don't like to do that because it costs us, on the processing end. But to get the best result, that's what you need to do. And you can see it still pops up in films and visual effects stuff all the time. When you get long shots of characters and you get a dinky little animation studio that had to rush the job, they'll cut all that kind of secondary animation short, and you can nail it. Like, it can be like a fraction of a second on the screen, and most people don't know what made it look weird to them, but it's almost always because not enough of the body is moving all the time.
Well, it's that thing that you get when you're having to choose a character in one of the games. You'll be in this room and everybody's at a desk and they're all going like this.
Yeah.
Right.
Same animation cycle.
This is kind of creepy.
But it has to be there, is the thing. It's even more freaky if they're sitting perfectly still. Like, you can tell. I mean, it's
nobody does.
The meta trick. You can tell the more important characters move better. The characters that people loved to build have all the little touches, and then the NPCs that don't really matter, they're missing all that stuff. It's like you can tell, oh, I'm sorry, he's not big, so I can kill him.
I'm very minor.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very minor.
We're looking at a brand new actor, because the only movement they have is that sort of gesture of supplication where they spread their hands out around waist level, and they keep doing that over and over and over and over again. And you're just like, okay, you really, really need to spend some time just like watching other people move.
We're moving without thinking about it, someplace, private. But yeah, that reminds me of something someone in one of my games says is they're sidekicks. They die like goldfish, and the ones who don't move much. Yeah.
Yeah. There it is. Okay, so the other thing that we can have is creepy posture or body movement. Okay. I do not know how to quantify creepy posture and body movement verbally.
I think a character actor could tell us.
Yeah, right. You know, somebody who's done this as an acting task, right?
Yeah, because there are specific sort of things that, you know, you bring to a role like that, and then like you find them in real life too. I think some of it is like when people like loom and ignore your personal space.
Right. A lot of it is breaching boundaries. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Getting too close. Yeah. And that has more to do with personal space and the empty space that you expect around yourself than it does with posture exactly.
But that also varies culturally. You know, there are cultures who are much more concerned about personal space, and other cultures where there is very little sense of personal space, and that can get really confusing.
Or a very complicated sense of personal space.
Yes.
Contextually based.
Yep. And there's also sort of the like holding a glance too long or staring too hard at somebody who real clear they don't want to be looked at, and the sort of prolonged touch. So somebody who shakes your hand and then holds onto it way too long.
Yeah. There's also involuntary.
Guys, you want to mention Brad Dourif out loud, or do you just want to? No,
nice. Go ahead. Brad Dourif has played. Was he Wormtongue?
Yes.
Yeah, Grandma Wormtongue. Yep.
Hello.
He was Wormtongue, and hi, Kat, and he was also that really creepy guy on Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah, the serial killer.
Yeah.
That they didn't know what to do with.
He's actually been a creepy guy in a lot of stuff because he does it really, really well.
Yeah, I mean that's basically his job. So I mean, you know, he's done voice work like Chucky as well. So
he was also in Dune. He was Peter de Vries.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the creepy mentat.
Yes, the link required to stay.
Oh God, we loved him so much in that.
Yeah.
Isn't it faster to list his non-science fiction creepy roles?
I don't know.
Are there any?
Frankly.
That would entail watching non-science fiction movies. What?
Why would I do that?
Do they exist? Is that a thing?
Well, and if you look at Dune, Baron Harkonnen is a totally other kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just gross. And there's a lot of creepiness. David Lynch is possibly a director who brings out the creepy in people. Let's face it.
I'm really excited to have joined the posture.
Yeah, but he means it.
We're actually just talking about creepy.
Well, you
chose the creepy moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
I sort of wanted to mention before we run out of time that there are involuntary postures too. There are people who don't have like full motor control, Tourette's and a few others, where you just have these postures that are out of your control or hand gestures or something. So,
Tourette's is a thing.
Yeah, it's like they're not necessarily in control, and maybe people understand that, maybe they don't.
And
Matt, what would you like to add since you've just arrived?
I was just going to ask whether we talked about culturally variant ideas on proper posture.
Well, we've sort of walked past that, but I'd love to hear from you on it.
So the ready stance in Taekwondo turned out to be very, very different from everything I learned because I've been mostly Western trained. And things like ballet and modern dance and, you know, watching people doing other Asian martial arts. And there's mostly this, you know, we were taught to envision having a string coming out of our head, right? And everything's straight. And the Chinese posture turned out to be to round the shoulders. Sorry, I should do this. Instead of standing with the shoulders back, to round the shoulders and to soften the spine. And it was, and it was considered wrong to stand with this very upright posture. And so it was sort of a shock to me to realize that this posture that I'd had valorized all of my life was not the posture; it was a posture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tai Chi encourages you to stand with your legs slightly bent and your hips loose and everything, so that you're totally sort of flexible instead of this, honorable upright kind of.
It's that Bagua ability to go back and forth stance, and this very soft in the wind stance, as opposed to this rigid "you are a rock, you are immovable" stance.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And also, different languages have different postures that are considered appropriate. When I was learning ASL, it's there is a formal speaking posture, but there's also a very common hip cocked sort of more loose posture where one foot is in front of the other, one hip is bent out, and it's designed to be more sort of upper body expressive because you have more room to sway, I think, among other things. And so things that were not just nationally different or different by occupation or martial stance, but also by language.
Yeah, in Western posture tradition, the sort of knees bent one foot in front of the other is very feminine, and the male is very standing with your weight balanced on either side.
Yep, braced.
Oh my goodness! Yes, yep. I have to tell you this because we were just getting photos taken, and they lined my son and his girlfriend up back to back at the same angle. So they were slightly facing forward, but they were back to back with each other. And they asked my son to step forward with one foot and the back foot. And they asked his girlfriend to soften one of her legs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? You can take a step forward too if you want.
Yep.
Like let's not stereotype how these two kids stand, because that's not how they stand.
Did we do the bigender superhero stance as posture as well?
No.
Nope.
Talk about that.
There's a glorious whole series of photos that Jim Hines took for charity.
Oh, right.
He brought into all the
boob and butt stance.
Yes, the how you can stand to show off, kind of doing this whole thing for women where they do the twist so that you can see their butt and their boobs at the same time, because that's like the important stuff.
And there's just been a whole thing on Facebook about headless women as well.
Yes.
That part of that's that actually is used on men in a lot of romance covers. It's because it's designed that you can fill in your own desired fantasy face, or whether it's you or whether it's the object of your desire. It's a really common technique.
There's also the very big thing where when people who've been socialized to perform a certain gender all of their lives reclaim their gender, that many of my trans friends have gone through, sort of having to relearn their postures so that they're not inadvertently continuing to give off the posture that they were trained into by their childhoods. And I watch parents scolding their children and telling them, "Oh, stand up straight," or, get your hands out of your pockets, or all sorts of other things that
don't touch.
Some of them are couched as respect issues, but some of them are very much about gendering.
Yeah.
And what do you do with your hands when you're posing for a photo?
Yeah.
Where are your elbows? What do you do with your hands if you're doing some sort of by your face thing? And those are all sorts of posturing that people use for gender cues.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have weird things with the royal family in the UK because the Queen always has a handbag. So she holds her arm, she's always got one arm across, doing this with the handbag. Prince Philip does not have a handbag, and Prince Philip will almost invariably stand very straight and upright, but with his hands behind his back.
Right.
because it's like otherwise they're awkward. You don't know what you're doing with them. So most of the male royals will tend, and they are trained to do this, to stand with their hands behind their back, so they're just not in the way or causing problems or bumping into things. Or,
there's a reason parade rest looks like that.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. What?
There's a reason parade rest looks like that. So that you have people all standing in the exact same posture, and you don't have the opportunity to have one guy with his hand in his pocket and you know where your hands go.
Yeah, nobody's there going like, "Hey."
Exactly.
You got like 27 people lined up all set, and then just one guy. Hey.
Oh well, now we could actually talk about various forms of photo posing, right?
I really am waiting for somebody from the Midwest throwing gang signs in San Francisco to get shot. I'm not really sure I'm going to be sad about it.
Oh man, they don't even have to be from the Midwest. They just have to be from the white suburbs.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I feel like that goes into a whole different session about gestures of greeting.
Yeah.
Because Kate will know what I mean when I say that I was sort of startled to realize that the intra black nod is not the same as the abbreviated bow nod that I learned to do as an East Asian. So there's a black nod that's chin up. Hey there.
Yep.
And there's an Asian nod that's head down, that's chin down. It's an abbreviated. Yep. And I just realized that I had been giving my black friends the Asian nod, which is why they were looking at me funny. And I've had there's a
whole thing about that, because you look at the exaggerated postures in now I can't remember the name of the kinds of film, but like the black parody films where people walk all funny. And I ended up having a knee problem about 2 months ago, and I was like, oh my God, I finally have the pimp walk. I get it. They just have one bad knee. Okay.
Yeah, I get to see a wider variety of walking here in the upper Midwest in a place with transit than I did living in LA where nobody walks. So the only people walking that you see are really, really fit who like walking. And here people are walking because they don't have cars. And so you see all of these stances of like, wow, I bet that person's on their feet all day. Or yes, I think they had an old injury and they're favoring one side. And there's all these kinds of gaits that don't normally show up when you're in a place where people don't walk. And then there's that infamous I've been on a horse all day, or I'm always on a horse all day walk.
Yeah.
Bow-legged.
Then there's the poser version, which is I want to walk like I look like that.
Yeah,
but it actually just makes me look constipated. Yes.
It's the affected mosey.
Yeah, you get the cholo walk as well with the big shoulder roll, like you're the shoulder all ready to get that punch in anytime you need it.
Well, it's the I am going to assert my right to take up sidewalk space because the man says I shouldn't.
I just bump into people now.
The difference between study after study about women who suddenly get bumped into because they're not seating space on the sidewalk. Because I learned actually that I'm not seating space as much as walking really, really fast and just sort of playing pole position around people, and that's why I never noticed, because I didn't wait for people to walk at me.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
and that's actually a different thing depending on where you are in the Bay Area. Like I would end up brushing or punching shoulders with people, and in the Midwest, for the most part, people get out of my way.
Right,
which is nice, but it's also weird. And then there's also the practice of when you are on the dance floor, how many elbows do you have to throw before you have room?
Very much depends on the nature of the mosh pit.
It really does.
That's all about the local culture of the dance, and also what you are perceived as in relation to that. Yeah.
Because that's why I go to Barry Manilow concerts now.
They have very polite mosh pits at the Barry.
I have. If I step out into a mosh pit, what they see is, oh, she's small, take care of her, which is okay. If I'm out on many other dance floors, depending upon the sort of social justice and inappropriate racialization awareness of the people around me, I may have no space and be not just throwing slapping. It's yeah, it's one of the ways that I learned that I needed to do more aggressive dance moves. But then I also learned that the whole everybody make up their own dance style that I'd learned in the white dominated suburbs was not a thing when I was hanging out with friends who'd been acculturated differently. Other groups are like, no, we're gonna do the dance that goes with this song, and then that was a revelation.
Everybody knows the moves, and everybody's doing that song's dance.
And the posture of the dance, right? Because so there's the thing that happens when ballerinas try to walk.
You just say dancers, all of them do it.
And then there's also the thing about different dance cultures have different neutral postures. And if you don't know the neutral posture of that dance, you can't do it right.
Yeah.
And also, if you have a different neutral dance posture and you try to do a different dance, you will end up dancing with an accent.
Yeah.
Have we had a world building on dance yet, Juliet?
I don't think so.
Because this sounds like a topic. There's a lot of stuff in dance. This sounds like a topic.
It has been written down.
And there's a way to mismatch that in so many ways. Like, I ride Western with an accent.
Sure.
Because I don't roll my back enough. I'm not. Yeah, because I learned English equitation, which is straight up, you're balancing. You're not just kind of like.
You're not rolling with it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're not with the horse. You're kind of trying to stay still despite the horse.
Right. And you kind of always want to be ahead of the horse.
Yes. Because we're crap at riding, basically.
So we're almost at the end of the hour, but I wanted to add one more thing, which I thought of a couple minutes ago, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned it before we left the topic, which was, how do you stand when you're speaking to a child who's vastly smaller than you?
Where do you bend from?
Where do you bend from? And do you try to get head-to-head level? And how does the child take it? Like, I mean, my instinct is very often to basically squat, to level my head with a small child who's within the right height range for me to squat. And I find they often appreciate it, but kids who have never had that done before will find it alarming.
Yeah, I don't really have this problem.
Yeah, I don't deal with kids a lot, but that's how I would do it.
I think my husband tends to squat or bend down to get his body smaller, because he's a kindergarten teacher for our religious school. And he tends to make himself shorter and smaller, and to get his face even so that he's not either looming or looking down on the kids.
Yeah.
Avoid it. He's 5'10" and not a little guy. And kindergartners are, for the most part, little.
Yeah, I think it's that avoiding looking down and looming kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm only 5'2". If I squat, I think I'll be shorter than a kindergartner.
No.
I haven't done it in a while, but
I'm 4 inches shorter. Yes, it is a thing.
Right?
Depends on the kindergartner.
Kindergartners? Okay, well, it would be an unusual kindergartner. Because my daughter is 5'2", and she's in 7th grade.
Yeah, no, but talking about when you squat down.
No, but
because
that's what I'm a 5'2" adult.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever thought of squatting, because if I squatted, I think I'd be shorter than the child.
I see your point.
Yeah, I mean, I start hearing I'm taller than you when the child is about 4 or 5.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's the thing. Did not know you were that tiny, because you're just the same size as everybody else on the screen.
Actually, she's larger than most people. Because she's
larger than life, I think is the term you're looking for.
Of course, when Brian was trying to invade everybody's space, he looked very large too.
You'll notice I'm wanting widescreen as well.
Another thing, my mom, who's at this point under 5 feet, I think, but she was a university professor for many years, and she would have more than one student, I think, came back to visit, after some years, and would look at her and say, "Wow, you're not as tall and present as physically as I remember you being."
I've spent most of my years trying to be as tall and imposing as possible, and so to take up space and to exert authority. So being asked how do you take yourself out of that frame is a really interesting question.
Mm-hmm. Because there's really not a place in my life where I don't want to be in that frame.
Yeah.
Well, there's no reason when a university student comes back to the university and sees you in that context, there's no reason not to be still in that frame. Just it's interesting that I think because they're no longer in that relationship that goes with that physical context, being in the university buildings.
But Juliet, you will probably see this happen in real time at Worldcon. People will say to me, "Oh my God, you're smaller than I thought."
Right. I'm
well, now I know what not to say when I meet you.
Pretty much.
Anyway, guys, I love this, and everybody, thanks for being here. Kat, thanks for coming in and livening things up and making sure we weren't all lonely when Kimberly had to go and all that. And this was really interesting, and I love you guys. And I don't know what we're doing next week yet, so please forgive me. I will let you know. But I appreciate you all being here, and I'm going to stop our broadcast. Thanks.